Hey guys, welcome back to Team Death Slinger. My name is Peter, and today we're going to be looking at my BT13 Dorugoramon deck profile. In my opinion, this guy's the coolest Dorumon evolution, and it's a shame that he gets overlooked all the time for Alphamon. After the ban list that restricted the old Dorugraymon to 1, this deck kind of lost its viability because there's nothing to put under the deck's Dorugraymon. So with the new Dorumon support coming out in BT13, I decided it was time to see if it's possible to make a Dorugoramon deck again with the new cards. Without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right into the deck profile. For the eggs in this profile, we're going to be running 4 copies of the Dorimon egg. We're always tucking sources in this deck, so having our draw engine rely around tucking sources underneath our stack is super good. That's it for the eggs, let's take a look at the rookies. For our rookies, we're going to be starting with 4 copies of BT7 Dorumon. This card is a staple in every Alphamon deck for good reason. We're always tucking sources, so we're always going to be getting memory back off that inheritable. Also, it's an on-play searcher, 3 cost to find an X antibody card. Very good in this deck. So we want to see it as much as we can. Next, we're going to go 3 copies of the new promo box topper Security Dorumon. More so than its ability to play a card off the top of our deck, we're looking for it to grab pieces off the top because we do need a lot of pieces to make our stack. And this card will always add itself as well as whatever you flip off the top of your deck. So it's super good for that purpose. And worst case, it's just another rookie to Digivolve on top of. Then we're going to go 4 copies of the promo Tsunorizumon. This card is fun. You could run another Dorumon in the slot, but I really like this card. When it's on the board, it's going to give your big black Mega Level Digimon piercing, which is good to get over blockers, and its inheritable is going to give you another security check, which in a deck like this, where it doesn't necessarily keep up with newer decks, having the extra swinging power is just very, very valuable. So that's going to be it for our rookies, and next we will take a look at the champions I'm running. Next, for champions, we're going to run 4 copies of the BT7 Dorugamon. This card's super good. Mostly, we like it because it gives us DP bonus, which is going to help us swing over everything in security when we do get to swing. And it's also a blocker if it just happens to be out on board, which is important because, like I said, this deck is not generating as much value as a lot of the newer decks right now. So having options to stall with is very nice. So we're also going to be running 1 copy of the new BT13 Dorugamon. It doesn't really do anything, it's just a DP bonus, and it's another name for our 4 copies of Dex Dorugoramon to go on top of. We want this, we're building big stacks, it's going to get us memory back, it's going to trigger Cool Boy, and it's going to give us a Retaliate blocker, which is also very strong. So our mid game in this deck kind of revolves around our blockers. If we need them, we have them. If we don't need them, then we're just building materials, we're getting a big stack. And then lastly, we go for 1 copy of Mercurymon. I always like hybrid for game, especially in decks like this. Again, not a fast deck, so having that surprise hybrid and taking the game with it is always nice. So that's going to be it for our champions, and we will take a look at our ultimate levels next. So starting off our ultimates, we're going to go 1 copy of the old BT7 DoruGreymon. This card gives security +1. And if you tuck a source, it gets protection from DP removal and from on deletion effects. So we like seeing this. This is our ideal ultimate level Digimon. If we don't see it, well, it sucks, but we have a new BT13 DoruGreymon that we can use. On Digivolve, we're going to reveal top 3, tuck a source, and then if we do, our DP cannot be reduced until the opponent's end of turn. So that's super good. It's really helpful in the BT13 meta because we have Shine Greymon that we're dealing with. And then its end of turn effect is also super good because we get to tuck a source. And by doing that, we can trigger our Dorumon to actually maintain our turn if we have to. So we like this card. We obviously want to see security +1 more than this, but if we do see it, we're not super upset. Then we're going to go 3 copies of the Dex Dorugraymon. I think this is the best deck card. It's going to get us memory back with the Cool Boy. We're going to be able to pitch our Death Xmon in order to play it from the trash later. It's going to delete a rookie or a champion, which is super good. So, good card. It's going to help us build that big stack. It's going to help us establish board control. So overall, we love it. That's going to be it for the ultimates. Next, we can look at our mega levels. For mega levels, we're going to run 4 copies of Dorugoramon. I really like this guy. I think his art is fantastic, and his when attacking is also pretty good. You get to tuck a source and then delete 2 of your opponent's Digimon whose play cost is less than the number of his Digivolution sources. So he's going to get over a lot of chump blockers. It's not weird for me to delete 2 ultimate levels when I swing with him, so he does establish a good amount of control. And we're going to get into him pretty fast because if you remember, our Dex Dorugamon and our Dex DoruGreymon are both going to refund us memory. Cool Boy's going to get us memory back, so once we're set up, we're going to get into him very quickly, and we're going to start deleting bodies off the board. Then we're going to go 3 copies of Dex Dorugoramon. When digivolving, we're going to delete all of our opponent's lowest level Digimon, and then on deletion, we can play out a Death Xmon, or Champion, but we definitely want the Death Xmon. And everybody knows what Death Xmon does. Fantastic card, and in a deck like this that wants to play him, we definitely have to run a copy. So that's going to be it for our Mega Levels. Next, we can take a look at our options and our Tamers. So we're going to start with our options, and we're going to kick it off with 3 copies of Final Zubagon Punch. I feel like this is the card that's given this deck a lot of the oomph that it needs to compete with other decks that my friends are playing. If you don't know what it does, it's a 2-drop, gives you 3k DP, and then if you have 16k or more, you're going to get Security +1, Reboot, and Blocker. Dorugoramon is always massive. He gets 1000 DP for every one of his sources that has X antibody, so we are always going to get that Security +1, and we're going to be swinging for massive checks and deleting our opponent's bodies off the board. Also, worst case scenario, you can play this card to choke your opponent at 1, and then you have a Reboot Blocker Dorugoramon with 16k DP on their board. Next, I like 2 copies of Brave Metal. In the best case, it's a 5-cost hard removal card. That's just going to kill 1 card without X antibody. It is a little bit tricky because a lot of good decks now, their top end is an X antibody card. But you can get into this pretty quickly because of our Dex cards. We're building a pretty tall stack pretty early, so I definitely think it's still worth running as a cheap removal option. Next, I like 2 copies of X antibody. We want to tuck it to get the draw trigger off Dorimon, get the memory off Dorumon, and then we're going to be able to do some shenanigans where we swing, and then we go into Dorugoramon, and then get on deletion effects. So just a very, very good option to be running 2 of. And we're going to find it with our Cool Boys and our Dorumons. Then I like 1 copy of X Program. You can tell I played Yu-Gi-Oh! Before because I read this card and I saw Raigeki. We have to keep in mind that it can delete our own Digimon just because we run the Tsunarizamon, but if you are losing and you're building a stack in the back and somebody's carelessly going wide against you and they don't have any X antibodies, you just wipe their board. And I think that's really good. So I like to run it at 1. Sometimes we don't want it, but that's why it's at 1. So lastly, for options, I'm going to go 1 copy of Calling from the Darkness. We can get into some shenanigans with this. We can delete our Dex Dorugoramon, and we can get a Death X off of it. If our stack dies and we're hurting for pieces, because we are looking for a lot of pieces to build a really big stack, having the Calling to find the pieces that we want is very powerful. So I do like this option in this deck. So that's going to be it for options. Next, we can take a look at the Tamers. Our Tamers in this deck are going to be super straightforward. We're going to go with 3 copies of Cool Boy. On play, we're going to search for a piece. And then, obviously, we really, really like being able to tap him for memory and a draw whenever we go into a Dex card. Very powerful. I'd run him at 4 if there were space, but there's not space, so we have 3. Then the only other Tamer that we're running is 2 copies of the new Yuuya. This card is strangely powerful in this deck because we can still trigger his effect when we go into Dex DoruGreymon because he is a Greymon. And what that does for us is gives us the potential to swing for 3 checks or 4 checks in a best case scenario with protection, which it doesn't really get any better than that. And, you know, in an ideal scenario, we're going to get protection from Yuuya, and then we're going to have piercing from Tsunarizamon, and we're going to have 4 checks on the board, and our opponent's going to say, what the heck just happened? So that's it for Tamers. Next, I do want to just look at some potential alternate card choices, possible tech cards, and stuff like that. So as far as tech options go, the first one I would consider is dropping either your Security Dorumon or your Tsunarizamon in order to get the draw power Dorumon. The only reason I suggest one of these 2 being cut for that is because our Tsunarizamon is not an X antibody card, and that means a lot of the times that you drop a searcher, you can whiff and then find yourself in a bit of a pickle. Also, like I said, this Dorumon doesn't have a whole lot of targets for actual on play, and it's going to be adding cards to your hand, but the flip side of that is that the other Dorumon is technically better draw power, and he's also going to help us pitch pieces like Deathexmon to help it get in the trash where we want it. So depending on the way you like to play the game, I could see you dropping either one of these two for that draw power Dorumon. Aside from that, you could also totally drop the Mercurymon. I like him. I like hybrid for game. In this deck specifically, it is a liability. It's not consistent, no X antibody in its traits. So you could drop that for another BT13 Dorugoramon, or sorry, Dorugamon, and your deck would probably be more consistent. Lastly, if you can, definitely want to run a second copy of Deathexmon. I'm just not, because it's expensive and I'm in a casual playgroup, so nobody really plays Deathexmon in our playgroup just because it is a very, very powerful card, and a lot of people don't think it's fun. So I'm running it in this deck as a funny little gimmick, but if you can and you want to play it a little bit more seriously, you should definitely run it at 2. So now we can take a look at some combos that you can find yourself doing with this deck. So in this example of a super common mainline combo, we have 2 cool boys, because we were searching for a lot of pieces earlier in order to build our stack. We have a Yuuya. He's a memory setter. He's going to set us to 3. So we're going to assume we've promoted our DoruGreymon. We built it in raising because it was safer, and now we're ready to make a play with 3 memory. So we're going to go into Dex DoruGreymon. We go down to 2. We activate his effect, and we're going to put this Death X in the trash. When we do that, we're going to tap Yuuya. Now we're at 10k, and we have protection. Then we're going to tap both cool boys. We're going to gain 2 memory, going up to 4, 5. We go up to 5. Now that we're at 5, we pay 3. We go into the Dorugoramon. Now we're at 2. So we're going to drop Final Zubagon Punch. We're going to be very clear of that 16k DP threshold. We're going to have security +1, blocker, and reboot. So now we're at 0. We're going to tuck X antibody underneath this stack, and then we are going to swing at the opponent with 4 checks at very much larger than 16k. Because we have a when attacking, we're going to trigger it. We're going to put the Dorumon underneath in the sources to trigger memory +1, putting us up to 1. And then we're going to use the X antibody underneath the stack to pay 2. We're going to get to delete 2 of our opponent's Digimon as well, by the way. And now the opponent is at 1. We deleted 2 Digimon off the Dorugoramon. We're going to delete the rest of their lowest level Digimon with the Dex Dorugoramon. We're going to hit them for 4 checks with protection. And then if this dies on the next turn, because it has blocker and reboot, we can, try and kill it if somebody swings into something. We can play out the Deathexmon. If you're in an even better board state and you have a Tsunarizamon on board, this could be a piercing 4 checks at this point. It'd probably be, I think it's 18k. But the point is, it's a very large boy attacking for a lot of checks with protection. You just have to find all your pieces and get yourself there. So overall, I'll be ranking this deck as a C. I think it's very casual. I built this deck to teach a friend who's never played card games before how to play the Digimon card game. It's a good example of a big stack deck, but it can't really compete with a lot of the newer decks that just spit out value left and right. You're going to go up into a very linear line, and if your stack dies, you're in some trouble. So having to hard play the Tamers also really, really, really hurts this deck. And a lot of your utility pieces, like your options, your Tsunarizamon, the Yuuya, all of these cards get whiffed by your searchers. So realistically, you're going to build a stack and probably lose a lot of your options and the cards that you want to pull off your big play, and it's not really ideal for a competitive environment. So that's the deck profile. I hope you guys enjoy it. Let me know if you like this more casual style of deck profile, not really any scripting, just kind of going over what's in my head and the cards. Subscribe if you enjoyed the video, leave a like, leave a comment, let me know what you thought. But as usual, have a nice day.